cases that we do here as they come in, just so we're looking at how to use the CT, how to make a judgment on what kind of treatment would actually work out well. This patient has pretty good assessment quality, so let's look at that real quick before we get into the CT. So the bone density is really good. That's a green, and we have a light green on the facial bone. We have a yellow constriction only because the walls are fairly parallel and it gets a little narrow in the lateral case. And I only have an orange on the solid orange because in this first molar position the sinus is really dropped in there. So outside of that, there's some angulation of implants. Wasn't done here, but we see that this patient's had a lot of dentistry done. Every tooth has had some major work. Crowns, root canals. You would think that she would really hate the dentist here. So one more thing. So now she's got a root canal treated here that ends up cracking and breaking. She has an implant here. She's got a natural tooth here. So the trick is to say, hey, what could we do here? And you have already a crown situation. In a crown situation, can you do a bridge to a natural tooth? So the name of this is Splint to natural tooth, or we can also, another way of just saying, can we bridge to the natural tooth? From the implant to the natural tooth. So, yes, you can. I know that it's an unpopular thing to do. Carl Misch, we call him Dad, or at least the father of this type of stuff in terms of looking at implant dentistry on a scientific level. I never really had seen any strong evidence. It's more inferred evidence, and if you actually look at it, maybe if there's somebody that's got some strong evidence against this, intuitively it seems like a thing you don't want to do, because the reason is that this ligament has a little movement, teeth have to move, and this does not, so you don't want to put undue biomechanics stress on this. Well, why don't you put a softer cement? Use a temporary cement here and use a real cement there. So if anything's going to give, it'll be the cement here. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for the type of movement that you're going to be experiencing when you're talking about an older person where their ligament might be calcifying anyway, or that maybe they don't have a strong bite force. On and on and on. I can think of a lot of reasons why that really doesn't hold water. I probably do maybe about 3 of these a year where I take a natural tooth, splint it to an implant tooth. And I have, and this is for the past 15 years, I have never seen a problem with those teeth. I've seen more problems with implant to implant bridges than I've seen, or tooth to tooth implants, but I've never seen a problem with the implant to natural tooth bridge piece. And I'm not really sure why that is, but I also don't feel like I'm as afraid of this idea just because Carl Misch might have said something and everybody else jumps on the bandwagon. My problem about fear around this subject is that dentists don't really always think it through as case by case as a custom situation, and they know this one thing about implant dentistry, and that's typically you don't splint implant teeth to natural teeth, meaning like put a bridge between this implant tooth and this. That's like sin. That's a holy, like you broke all the rules. And so when the patient goes to another office or general practitioner and that practitioner doesn't do a lot of implants, sees that I put that in there, then I can get a lot of hate from that dentist, and that confuses the patient about really what is going on or why the decision was made to do that, blah, blah, blah. So before I do something like that, I make sure that that patient understands full well that this is an uncommon opinion out there, and that they're going to run into people that really are going to hate to see that and want to redo that. And I just have to reiterate that they're going to have to stand up for themselves, or stand up, at least for me, and say, no, I trust what this other doctor was doing, and we're going to follow it from there. So if anybody has some real reasons that other than the ligament movement part of it, I would love to see it, but I don't see the problems. So that is a treatment plan. Here's a problem I actually see a lot of, and I wish endodontists would not do this or general dentists would not do this, is place these posts in there. That's horrible because that typically fractures the tooth up here. Here it fractured off the top. Those aren't helping anything. So I would say, let's get rid of that. Here's another one I hate, apicoectomies. Let's get rid of that. I think that this is not even close to the measure of damage you do with an apicoectomy for sure. So write in the comments around that one. I'd love to see that. Angled implants. If it's working for the patient, it's working for the patient. You know, everybody's got a different bite load. Sure, that's not an ideal placement. Neither are these, but they've been in there for over 10 years. So what are you going to say about that? Just like some of these root canals may not be fully filled or backfilled, whatever, it's working for the patient. So, you know, you don't have to criticize every little thing you see in an x-ray that you don't agree with or you don't like just because of the way it looks. So let's look at this site here a little bit closer with the CT. And we'll look at the bone, we'll look at the quality. So if we look at right here, we can see that this is the central tooth right here. Say right there. So there is a decent amount of facial bone here. There's not a lot of lingual bone, but this is not one of my favorites for an immediate placement, especially in the anterior zone. So if you're taking out the central or you want to go implant to implant, I'm not really sure. This is a great tooth. Leave it there. If anything, you recrown it and make the bridge. Let's go to the lateral that we're actually going to look at here. Let me get that up and set. So that would be right here. And so yeah, this tooth is fractured off. We do have a bony line right here to right here. This is split, so the bone is going away at a little bit of the top. I don't like immediate implants too much because in a cosmetic area, I don't ever want to make things worse than they already are potentially. So you could do an immediate implant here. Don't say you can't. And if you were, let's say you did something like that, maybe even graft over that. Let me fix this on this side a little bit. Actually, that's pretty much right down the middle. And that's what it looks like. So the only thing is that the bone drops a bit there. And if we can look at this view, we can actually see how that implant starts to show up right at the top of the bone. And there we go. So here's the bone here. We're not quite at the implant, and we're right down the middle. And as we go down, that's going up, sorry. Now we're going to go up through the bone more. Here's the top of the implant. We have a good amount of bone around. And that looks pretty good. Oh, there's the crack on the tooth, and we're down here. So you do have a bit of a gap to the facial bone, so that's good. I mean, you're going to have to maintain that. So if you put a little graft material in there or a new bone in there, that's fine. This would be successful. You might have a trouble a little bit with the papilla, but if this sinks down far enough and you have the right type of implant here in the anterior, you'll definitely be successful. So, like I said, there's a couple choices here. I think that they're both decent choices. One is going to be less favorable with dentists if this is a patient watching it, and one is going to take a good 4 months if they do an immediate placement. If they do not do immediate placement, you're looking at a good 8-month project here because you have 2 bone healing events on that. One for the graft and one for the implant. So that's a pretty straightforward case. The occlusion looks good, and they're pretty rock steady. Everything is all like porcelain on porcelain everywhere. So anyway, thanks for joining us on this case study. It's a real quick and easy one, but relevant because it's very common the root canal treated teeth crack off and break off at the gum line in the front, just like this one did. But check our other videos out on YouTube, subscribe, and look at us, give us a like on Facebook. We appreciate it, and thanks for joining. And check out some of our live stream stuff that's coming up. Great, thanks.